Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Saturday, May 19th, 2018. My name is Rich, and joining me once again is Bijan. How are you making out?
I'm good, bro. Chilling, relaxing, feeling good.
Having a good week?
Yeah, I mean, it's the week where I'm done training for Spartan Beast. It's coming up this Saturday, so just relaxing. And I can't wait to eat junk food again after this weekend.
I bet. And we are joined, sitting in the back row right now, just wondering, like, what are these guys chatting about right now, is 8-year American Ninja Warrior veteran, captain of the Beast from the East, James the Beast McGrath. How you doing, James?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem at all.
Dude, long time coming.
Yes, it feels like forever. Like, we should have invited you a long time ago. I'm so glad you joined us.
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks for finally giving me the invite. It's awesome. It's kind of weird because I listen to the show all the time, and like sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could just be there to set them straight on this or that. Or,
Yeah, James.
I feel like so much of what is said, I'm like, oh, I have something to add to that.
I'm sure you've had words for me at certain points.
James has been great for those that don't know. James like gives us all the background when we miss things up or we didn't notice certain things. James has been great to let us know where we've missed out, which I always appreciate. Thank you very much, James, for every time you've done that.
Well, not everything. You don't get to see everything on the show, so a lot of people will see what you guys see and come to the same conclusions, and it's like, well, at the same time they have to take this thing that took hours to run and put it into a nice, neat little 2-hour episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we can only see what's, provided to us on the TV show, but like a lot of people that were actually there, they see the full, like, almost 10-hour, 4-day experience almost. So there's a whole lot more going on.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things I learned when we started this podcast is the Wolfpack, Noah and Brian, were both like, how do you guys not know these things? Like, they kind of grew an appreciation for production. Like, wow, they really do hide the stuff that's going on because you guys didn't even notice this, that, or the other thing that happened.
Yeah, one of the things is there were a lot of false starts on the show just because of the way the timing system was all set up. And the 3, 2, 1, go setup wasn't connected to like their timing system, so it would go 3, 2, 1, go, and the crowd would chant that out too. But the signal to go was like a second after the big screen say go. So there were a lot of false starts. So
That's
when
funny.
you watch, if you pay super close attention to the super slow-mo stuff that happens at commercial, they'll typically have some of the runs on there in slow-mo that weren't actually shown, or the ones that were rerun.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, when you just see the starts on Ninja vs. Ninja, man, like there are some competitors that are going almost a full second before the next one. I'm like, did they mess up? Like, are they going to get penalized? But no, it's just like, I think some people are more cautious than others, and I assume there's a lot of false starts, as you said.
Yeah, some people were prepared for the noise, and some people were just like, it would be a surprise when it happened.
Man, that sucks. Could you imagine, like, we saw your run, you guys are good in terms of the timing, but could you imagine, like, you're up against whoever, like, some fast dude. Let's say Daniel Gill, because you're up against him, right? And, like, all of a sudden, he blows past you, like, a full second. You're like mentally, already you're there being like, oh, man, I have to make up a full second on Daniel Gill. Yeah, I could see how that could play a major factor in it.
It was one of those things that was tricky. You had to it was what it was, and you just had to figure out a way to deal with it. Myself personally, I looked at the ground, and by looking at the ground, you could tell when the screen was lighting up and doing the 3, 2, 1 countdown. And then after the third or fourth light, I would get ready for the sound, which was the trigger. There's just a single beep and you would go.
That's a good point, man. I've noticed quite a few competitors doing that. I just figured it's a track running stance, and I'm sure it is, but also there is that component, as you said.
It does
Yeah.
explain why so many people were looking down. You say that, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking straight at my feet, getting ready for it.
So before we get into the actual episode, one thing that really struck me is, do you enjoy running the A&W course more than or Ninja versus Ninja? Like, if you had a preference that you could only do one, which one would it be?
Oh, if I could only do one, it's definitely A&W.
Really?
Is it the variety?
It's a whole lot more difficult.
Ah, the difficulty.
With Ninja versus Ninja, it's a given that you're going to beat all the obstacles. The obstacles compared to what you would do on American Ninja Warrior are not very hard.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, for somebody your level, it's the equivalent of a jungle gym and then an actual, like, legit course, right? So, yeah, that's a good point.
Even, I mean, everyone there, they're not doing it so that people fall on the course. They're doing it so that people race on the course. When people fall, it's because they're behind and they're making mistakes.
Yeah.
Because they're rushing themselves, or they're just doing something that's a little more risky to try and make up the time.
Yeah, they're trying something new, and sometimes that pans out. I mean, today we saw a amazing thing on the Devil Steps. That's what I know him as, from Grant McCartney, where he basically just like goes through the whole thing in like 3 moves, So definitely you can take risks and do well, but as we've seen, sometimes you get crash and burn also. In general, though, I'm kind of curious. That final portion of the the zigzag, is that what it's called?
Zigzag,
was that thing more slippery? Like, if you can remember back a year at this point, I know I'm asking a lot, bro, but like, what was going on there?
We were actually right next to a dam.
Oh,
I think that happening was causing at certain points in the night there to be a lot more humidity, because you could just see like clouds moving through, and at certain points during the night when that was happening, there was a little bit of mist on the inside there, and some people were just falling right off. Like they'd get to a certain point in the zigzag, and all of a sudden they'd have no traction. They just fall right out.
Okay, makes perfect point.
Later on through the night or before that, like people would get in the zigzag, and they'd be stuck to it the whole time. That's one of the problems with trying to do this stuff outside. Even when the weather's clear, you can have a problem with humidity and moisture.
Yeah, I've never really gotten. I mean, we've seen. I hate to make the comparison, but on Ninja Warrior UK, we've seen them do it indoors, and they can control everything much better. It doesn't make the show better, obviously, but it does allow them to. It does allow them. I mean,
there's a lot of things they can do to make, the background look better than what they do in the UK, because it's pretty bad. I don't know, their most recent season, the announcers seem to be taking it a little more seriously, and that I think is very helpful for the show.
Yeah, I saw clips, and they are taking it more seriously. It's just like traumatized, from how bad it was before. But maybe we can revisit it, eventually again. Definitely not this season. I'm good, but
we'll give it one more year. Yeah,
yeah. But I did notice they are taking it more seriously. I think they're taking a lot of criticism, to heart and actually readjusting. And if we look back, James, you've seen it, like. The first few seasons of American Ninja Warrior, drastically different from what we have now. The tone's always been the same, but there has been a quite a difference in terms of approach. So as always, you start and you have one idea for the show and you evolve and grow with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get into the actual episode here. Some big changes on the courses, some obstacles we haven't seen on here before, the parallel pipes and the hanging staircase.
Yeah.
I know you were looking forward to these, Bijan and James, I guess. It sounds like
some interesting obstacles.
To say the least. Dude, those parallel pipes, I didn't know what to think of it. I was like, what is that thing?
When I was running the course and I got to that point, I just remember sitting on top of it and thinking, like, how did I get up here and how do I get down? Because that was by no means intentional.
Bro, yeah.
Well, that was the thing. When they introduced it, it sounded to me like you had to go over them, and then that quickly flew out the window because nobody was going over them. you just thought maybe it would be easier to launch off the top, or just instinct took over and you're just...
I guess, I mean, I watched it a few times because I honestly, like, my plan was to just grab and then grab the first one and then kind of like do a small throw. So I had to reach and grab the second one so I could pull and throw. But I grabbed the first one and then I had all this forward momentum. And all of a sudden I was just sitting on the second one is what it felt like to me. And I'm just like, oh, great. Like, how do I fix this before Daniel catches up? And then Daniel caught up and I fell off the back as soon as he hit it. And it was right then I knew, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to catch him after this. The way that course was set up, whoever made it to the fifth obstacle first won. Like that, I don't even know what to call it. That downward kind of devil step looking.
Yeah.
The hanging staircase, they called it.
So it was originally 2 of those, but I think they wanted to do. I think they really liked the interactions that people were having on the on like the ring toss and the bungee pipeline. So they wanted to try and make that kind of the same. But the problem with that is that the obstacle itself was super narrow, and the angle of it was pretty steep. So if someone was in front of you, you weren't able to make a move to try and transition in front of them, or kind of outplay them, so to speak. So once someone was in front of you on that was just it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, try and beat someone with a 2-second head start on the wall.
It wasn't on the other side then, because that was one thing I was wondering at the beginning was, did they have stairs on both sides, but it was just the one side we could see?
Yeah, so it was just the one side you could see. Initially, there were 2 of those, but then they took one away.
Yeah, they probably wanted, some, meeting and convergence. But the problem was, I feel, is I'm just going to call them devil steps because I'm never going to remember hanging staircase. Like, keep it simple, guys. But I feel like devil steps, nothing's like super, everything's got some difficulty to agree. But in terms of like all the obstacles we've seen this season, this has got to be one of the easiest, and when you just see as a 5th obstacle and a point where it's right before the warped wall, and we see usually a lot of interaction at the converging part at the end of that obstacle, you just didn't get much opportunity for that because it's not very difficult to do. So I feel like that was kind of like just a false starter, honestly. Now, the previous obstacle, the pipe, hanging pipes, whatever you want to call it, that one was pretty cool. It was weird, it was awkward, and you could see a lot of the ninjas, trying to figure out the best approach to tackle it. So I felt that definitely worked. So it's kind of hit or miss.
How I performed on it, that was honestly probably my favorite new obstacle.
Yeah, you could totally see it. It gave a lot of opportunities for people like just flailing, right? Like just grabbing it whichever way they can and just like bumping into each other. I mean, I loved that interaction. You never knew who was going to get off that first. Even if you grab the second pipe first, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get off of it first.
Yeah, it was super simple and like very straightforward, but the fact that it was just a shared obstacle, I think it's my favorite shared obstacle that they've had, just because like you can do so much by like how you do it and affect the other person. Like, take me for example.
Yeah.
If that was split up between 2 people, I would have figured out like, okay, let me just hop off of this thing and push really hard, like a Kong through, and I'll fall at the other end. It'll be fine. But just because it's shared, like Daniel comes blazing through, and I almost ate it right there.
Yeah, I don't know how you saved that. I mean, props to you for being able to do that, because as soon as you spun upside down, like, well, he's about to fall, but you managed to recover and continue on.
Yeah, it was, like I said, everything once I got to that point was kind of a surprise. Sitting on top of it was a surprise. Hanging upside down was a surprise. Not hitting the water was a surprise.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive save, by the way. Because there's no, like, you're literally just hanging on by your fingers, converting over, and all your body weight's pressing against you the other way. I mean, I thought for sure you were going in the water, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we jumped way ahead, so let's rewind it all back here. Let's go back to the very first run here. We had the Golden Hearts.
Didn't I tell you we're going to get off track? I'm telling you. Every week.
That's all right. We're going to go Golden Hearts versus Norcal Ninjas. And right off the bat, the intros of those two teams and the personalities of those two teams just show that ninjas come in all shapes and sizes.
Oh, yeah.
Complete divergence in terms of personality, not knocking Norcal Ninjas, but they're a lot more serious, more focused team and everything. And Golden Hearts, they're focused in a different way. They show the personality, they show lightheartedness. So it's crazy seeing both, teams next to each other, but it made for quite a visual.
Exuberant.
That's a good term. Yeah. Very exuberant.
So the matchup did not go well for Norcal Ninjas. It was it ended up being a clean sweep in the end, but some really good races. Like, I really enjoyed this matchup. I actually enjoyed all the matchups. I thought the whole episode was fantastic.
Yeah, they fought kicking and screaming to the end, man. Like, Norcal Ninjas, even though they got blown out, it did not feel like a blowout in the slightest. Just every single race was close.
That run was the hardest to watch. Because that almost never happens.
That really sucked.
You make it to the wall before your opponent, and then you miss the wall, and then your opponent's just like, oh, thanks, see you later.
Yeah, and there was quite a lead, too. Like, Anna was very far ahead of Natalie Durant, and yet, I don't know, just that final obstacle, we've seen it time and time again. Every once in a while, you just don't have, necessarily, I don't know if it was stamina or what was going on, but she just couldn't get up that wall, and I feel for her, man.
I think still, even though we're in season 3, there's still some competitors who just aren't used to exerting themselves so much before running up the wall.
Yeah.
You can go to a gym and try out all the obstacles that they have. And you're like, oh, I got this. I can do all these obstacles. Well, try them when you're tired. Mm-hmm. Try sprinting through some of them and then doing them. And it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel for her. She was right there at the end. But, I mean, good on her for making it that far. And at the very least, showing what she's got.
I forgot that she was so new to Ninja Warrior when she did Team Ninja Warrior until they brought it up here. She had only been doing it a very short time. So, I mean, she's still new to the sport. I think she's someone we got to keep an eye on because she did fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And special shout out to Golden Hearts. They got a common thing where they're all jumping in each other's arms, Like, it was a thing before, but, like, every single run, somebody's jumping in another person's arms. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, they're fun to watch both on and off the course.
Yeah, definitely. Special shout out to Natalie Durant. She's fun. She was my buddy during tapings.
Oh, sweet.
There was a moment with the race between David and Grant that I figured you must love, Bijan.
Dude.
David's got a slightly, but Grant ends up pushing the pipe with his foot and almost causes him to fall.
I already love the fact that, David Campbell in previous episodes was already like, giving it his all, getting a little fisticuffs going on in some of the runs and everything. And now we got Grant McCartney just like giving it back to him, doing a little clap back. And I freaking loved when he kicked the damn thing, away from David Campbell. I mean, that's what you want to see. It's not, super bad or anything, it's not terrible, but it's a light little thing where you get a leg up. And I don't know, I loved that little portion where he kicked away. I hope to see more of it, honestly.
I totally missed that. I didn't see that at all.
Yeah.
I was wondering what happened because David was in quite the lead.
Oh, dude, yeah, he totally kicked the pipe. He said he wasn't trying to. Grant said he was trying to just grab it, but then he like kicked it to like get to get his foot on it. But in doing so, he totally messed up he totally messed up David's swing and, just completely blew past David. And I don't know, I was like, oh man, I hope people are taking notes. I want to see this the entire episode. But hopefully, we see it in future episodes, Takes notes, man. Next season.
So yeah, a great race. They did end up losing in the end, which brought us to the next matchup, which was yours, James. And I really can't believe how great these finals are going to be. Just looking at every matchup that comes up, I'm like, oh my God, all my favorites are running the course. Like, this is just everything we've wanted from Team Ninja Warrior, but the matchups all kind of went screwy in the previous seasons. And this season, we're getting everything we ever wanted.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Now, by saying that, he wishes, your team was in the finals, but...
This is the finals. They made it to the finals. They had to
This is the playoffs.
battle their way
the
through.
finals are next.
Oh,
but...
sorry, the playoffs. I meant playoffs. My bad. Foot in mouth. All right, back to it. Matisse versus Dave to kicked it all off. Matisse just fell trying to skip a few steps, trying to catch up. Dave just killing it on the course. I really thought Matisse had this one right off the bat. Just because you've seen him fly. Yeah, I sometimes we just kind of get those favorites from watching previous episodes, and Matisse is stuck with me.
Well, I think
ever since I first saw him.
I think part of that might also be Dave and Akbar, Matt and Akbar, when they just they'll be like, oh, this is the fast guy. He's really fast. That's his thing. Like Lauren Ball. I mean, not saying Lauren Ball isn't fast, but people are, whenever he's in a matchup, it's like, oh, watch out. Lauren Ball is going to just whoop this person because Lauren's really fast and this other person isn't known for speed. It's like, oh, okay, but, Lauren doesn't have the best record.
Yeah. I mean, look at Joe Moravsky. That's somebody that's, fast.
Yeah, but, if you were to match up Lauren Ball with Joe Moravsky, a lot of people would be like, oh, Lauren's probably going to win because he's known for being fast and Joe isn't known for being fast. Well, it's kind of because, it's one of those things that's the thing they talk about with him because he's fast. With Joe, they talk about other things.
Yeah, definitely. Just right off the bat with Matisse, it's a thing where he's so young. I think he's going to do very well at a lot of common obstacles. But when it comes to new obstacles, it very much is a question mark. I just need to see more of him if he's good at adapting to new obstacles yet.
Oh, he is.
Yeah?
He's very good.
Okay, well, the answer is that then. Because I just haven't seen enough of him,
Yeah, and I get that. With him, I think he just made a common mistake that most people make when they get behind in one of these races, and that's just you're so much more willing to do something you didn't plan on doing and normally wouldn't do just to try and make up that extra step.
Yeah, and in this case, honestly, he had to because once again, that staircase kind of sucks in terms of catching up.
Yeah, and most of the races I've run on Ninja versus Ninja is and the Team Ninja before have ended with my opponent falling. And that's just me being a step or two ahead, and they're just like, oh man, we gotta make up some time, and just making a mistake.
What's the better strategy, I guess? Is it to know ahead of time that if I'm behind, here's how I'm going to approach it, to plan it out as if you're going to be a step or two behind at some point?
I don't want to say always plan to be ahead, but I can always, I guess I always plan to be ahead from the start.
You visualize it.
Of all the strategies you could pick, I think that's actually the best one, to be fair.
If I'm not, I just, the way I did it, I was planning to do everything as efficiently and quickly as possible, and just, running, which I don't usually do on obstacle courses. I'm not running as fast as I can to get somewhere, but that's just kind of what you got to plan to do. And sometimes you just have to ignore who's next to you.
James, I got to ask, man, what was it like, seeing this Erica Cook run live when it's happening, because that just broke my heart watching it.
It was heartbreaking. I was so excited that she made it through the floating tiles, just because that was something I was worried about with her, because she hadn't done so well on it. She took a dive. I don't think she had fallen at that point, but she had taken some pretty bad dives on it. But then she got to the wall, and I was like, oh man, let's just cross our fingers and see what happens. And seeing her fail it 2 times in a row was just, it was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was scary, honestly. Just the visual with the knee brace and everything, just going up that and dropping, and her landing on it, scary.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about her getting injured. It's just that, because she was very confident in her being back, and then watching that, I was just like, oh, she's not, her knee's fine, and she's strong. She's just babying it still, because that was the first competition she'd done, period, since she got cleared. She came right off of rehab and then did that.
Wow.
So her being out there, I was just impressed with.
And she injured her knee on last season of Team Ninja Warrior, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So mentally, I mean, that's a lot to take in, Just going back to that same obstacle, with your knee brace. I mean, all the props of the world to her. That takes a lot of bravery and a lot of courage.
I was really surprised that they didn't play that up more. It was almost like they were trying to like, yeah, she injured her knee. Like, yeah, we know how she injured her knee. You guys, well, not that they did it, but I mean,
Yeah.
it was on the show.
I think that's one of the things they want to stay away from is that like her doing it on the show is something I think they could do without reminding people about.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't want to bring that up too much, but Rich, that is a good point of a storyline that they can make. I see both sides to it,
Yeah. So if you're still in touch with her, I know you ran in Philly this year. Obviously, we don't want any spoilers on how you did, but are you feeling 100% this year? And is she as well?
Well, I'm actually not in touch with her anymore. She just she got kicked off of the team after not making it up the wall.
Makes sense.
Deleted her from all of my friends lists and all that. So
it's like you're dead to me.
Yeah, she's feeling good. I haven't seen her in person since then, but I mean, I'm sure by now she's gotten over the whole mental aspect of babying the injury, and I'm sure she can make it up a wall just fine now.
And what about you, man?
Me? I'm 100%. I'm back.
Nice. That's what I want to hear. It was hard, like last season, there were a few ninjas with injuries. It was just hard to see, man. So I really wish everybody the best, and I really, really hope there's not as many injuries.
It was tough making my submission video for this season because I went back and rewatched Cleveland, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. I didn't recognize myself.
Brutal to see, man. It wasn't bad, but it's like you're just yearning you on. It's like, come on, James, get up.
Oh, what do you mean? That was so bad.
As a viewer, man, I fell for you, bro.
It was gutsy, man. I'm telling you.
After completing an obstacle because I was so tired.
Yeah, we could see it all over your face. Like, we saw the same thing I saw in person watching Ryan Stratus run in Philly a few years ago. Same thing. It's like, it makes it that much more intense to see someone just pushing through all that pain to get through the course. But
knowing Stratus, he was just playing it up.
Stratus is a big fan of wrestling, I'm sure,
Oh, yeah. He was selling it hard.
It's all good. I would do the exact same thing, to be honest. It's like, here's my camera time. Just grimace as hard as you can.
But I do have to say that was one of those things, because I was sidelined for that run for Stratus, and I was just like, oh my gosh, he needs to get off the course. He needs to stop this right now. And then he'll just like go and like finish the next obstacle and look great on it. And I'm like, oh, he's fine. And then he's like, once he's done, he's just like grimacing and holding his shoulder. And I'm like, oh my God, he's got to get surgery again. So I was worried.
Yeah, I bet. By the way, special shout out to Puppy versus Puppy. We haven't brought this up the whole season because it's kind of dumb, but I don't know. It's kind of adorable at the same time, guys. It just came across my TV, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It's a Puppy versus Puppy thing.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, I think Rex won this episode, so good on you, Rex.
Really? Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Have we stooped
we
this
gotta
low?
cover everything, bro. Come on, man. That's some adorable puppies right there.
I like the Puppy versus Puppy.
Hey, it plays well into the whole, you have to remember, a lot of people that watch this show, or a lot of families and everything, bring up the puppies.
I just, I question their obstacle course design. They could get a lot more intense stuff.
For real, though. Get some swings in there, some hamster balls.
Yeah, puppies are capable of all kinds of things, man.
Of all the quotes I ever thought we would get on this show.
Off the rails.
Puppies are capable of all kinds of things. It's just not one of the ones I thought I'd hear.
So welcome to ANP, where I am always trying to derail it, and Rich is like, please stay on task. It's like, nope, not gonna happen, bro.
So looking ahead, you were down 2-1 and going to the relay. What did you put your chances at? Were you pretty confident? Were you a little worried after Erica struggled with the wall? I mean, you could kind of avoid that with the relay, but
the relay is where I was actually the most confident. But once the relay started, Erica had a few hiccups. She was a little slow out the gate because of her start, and then she kind of got caught at the net, and right there, it was pretty much over.
Hey, things happen, though. I mean, you guys did great this season, so props to all of you guys, honestly.
I'm really proud of my team and how we did. Coming into it, I was taking a look, on paper, I'm like, we've got a really solid team. And then we finally, meet up in person in LA, and it's like, oh, most of us are broken. How are we gonna deal with this? And we kind of scratched our way through until we encountered Daniel's team and just started sitting on top of obstacles.
I mean, hey, it could be a swing. It's all good.
But in all fairness, you guys put up a good battle against one of the favorites, in the whole thing. So I mean, you did great for the whole season for sure.
Yeah, they're absolutely one of the strongest teams in this show, in this competition, and I'm really happy with how we did. So, I mean, I'm not disappointed at all. For me, personally, I was like, okay, this will be a good way to get experience and, find out where I'm really at, because you can only gauge where you're at so much going to gyms and just doing obstacles and saying, oh, my shoulder feels okay when I do this or that. But getting on a course and racing through it like your life depends on it is a completely different thing.
All right, so moving ahead to the finals here, we had Iron Grip versus the Golden Hearts, and I wasn't sure which way this was going to go. This was going to be a good battle, though, either way.
It's going to be a close one, I'll tell you that, man. I originally thought Iron Grip had a leg up, but I always felt like it would be very, very tough. It would be a close call. I was very interested in just the way they matched up and everything. I didn't, in my head, figure at the beginning where, they're having Grant McCartney start first. I'm like, that's interesting. Grant McCartney's like really fast. But then, of course, halfway through, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's a big dude. Like, that's gonna be tough for him. All things considered, though, I mean, just the drama and everything in this run alone. Like, what were you guys' thoughts?
It was exciting. It was really exciting to watch. Like you said, I gave the edge to Iron Grip just because I know Grant is pretty deceiving because he's a big guy, and he moves like he's not such a big guy.
Yeah, he moves fast.
He's very fast, but Iron Grip, I just think, edged them out in speed overall. I think Mateus is really quick and very strong on all the obstacles, and going in, I definitely, I would put money on it that Tiana is quicker than Natalie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Natalie's more of a power,
Yeah,
competitor.
and most of the course you are running on your feet.
Yeah, that's true.
And so Tiana can definitely hold her own on the upper body stuff, but when most of the course is actual running, I'll give that to Tiana. If most of the course was monkey bars through instead of that space in between, one of the big things about this is moving in that space in between the obstacles, and that's just pure foot speed. So if you have someone that's just flat out faster than the other person with their foot speed, you can make up a lot of room in between the obstacles.
Good point.
Okay, the first matchup we had between Matisse and Grant, I gotta say, I lost a little respect in the household on this one. I got texted from downstairs, basically what are you watching? Thinking I was watching RuPaul's Drag Race or something because I was gasping and how am I gonna?
What are you? No, go on.
Yeah, it was not the most manly of gasps when when they end up falling. Let's just say that. Anyway, it struck me funny. It was absolutely floored me when he fell, and then when Grant was there, I was just completely sucked in. It was probably my favorite run of the night, just watching Grant try to make up that time, trying to complete the course after Matisse fell.
Big time. I mean, it was a lot of drama in a very short span of time, you know. First of all, just the visual aspect, like Matisse is so much smaller than Grant. It's crazy. It's like a complete big brothering, just the visual aspect alone. But also, you know, when Grant comes off of the rolling dice, he's almost stumbling over, like completely exhausted. And I was worried for him. But then, you know, he has the chance to collect himself because Matisse fell, and it was all this drama. Because even if he spends a minute catching his breath, and I'm sure you know this, I almost called you Grant, James. You know, you know, there's only so much cardiovascular wise, you know, you can make up in that period of time. Your muscles already shot, your legs already cramped, and I was just curious to see if he can gut through it or not. You know, there's a lot going on, not only the mental aspect alone. So it was a lot of struggle, and it was quite invigorating, to be honest.
Yeah.
Were you there to see? Were you able to see that in person, or did you see it?
I did watch that in person.
You did. Was it as intense as they made it out to be, or was there a lot of like how long did he get a chance to rest? Do you know offhand?
Oh gosh.
Not exactly, but like, would it be a minute? Or?
Not a whole lot of time. Like you can take your time, but I mean, when you're in the moment like that, you can think like, oh, I took 45 seconds, I feel good, and then go. Well, turns out you only took like 10 or 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of the time you don't want to spend like, 2 or 3 minutes just sitting there. You gotta just go and do it.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, that was a great race. Unfortunately, with both of them falling, Matisse got the win because he got there first. For me personally, both of them falling, it was just kind of one of those things like, oh, it must be wet. I looked at it and you look at the way that they slipped off, and I was just like, oh, that stinks. I guess that makes sense too, because we see after that, when Daniel's racing up there, he actually takes the time to brace himself and wipe his feet like mid-obstacle.
On himself, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was dope.
With that obstacle, it's super difficult because it's not like you can just send someone in there in between races to like dry it off. It's like hanging in the middle of the air. So they couldn't really do a whole lot about it.
Yeah. Not to mention, I mean, at least Grant, but I think Matisse is somewhat tall. I think it's like 5'10", 5'11" or so. And James, you would definitely know this. I mean, that obstacle alone, it's a lot harder when you have longer legs. It's definitely made more for people with shorter legs.
I know it's easier for people who are shorter. I mean, I honestly, whenever I've done a spider climb, I haven't noticed it being very difficult. But people who are shorter are just like, yeah, I could be in there forever without getting tired. And I'm just like, no, I definitely get tired after doing that for a little while.
Yeah, those hip flexors are no joke on that obstacle if you got the longer legs. But yeah, it's definitely doable. And if you're, at your level or any of the Ninja Warriors, you get used to it. I think when it comes to added pressures, added elements like water and everything, there's a lot more things going on for somebody the height of Grant McCartney, I feel.
Yeah.
Not to mention the weight, man. Oof, that's a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I thought was really interesting was on the stats for the matchups. They weren't giving the same stats for everyone, but when they would give like height and weight, it seems like everyone who was over 6 feet was like 185.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why does everyone outweigh me by 25 pounds?
Hey, it's a good trait to be slim in the show. That's one thing I've learned, so it's all good.
Yeah, I feel like there are some people who are bigger than me, but I'm like, man, are they really that much bigger than me?
I don't know. Everybody's got different body types,
Yeah.
That is so true. I actually couldn't agree more on anything that's ever been said on this show. There are vastly different body types interested in this sport. Yeah, 185 is not that heavy. And if you're over 6 foot and that high, I don't really think you're overweight. I really think that's a good, that's a good size to be. I'm sure,
Reg. You're going to be the next Ninja Warrior, bro. Canadian Ninja Warrior coming up.
If it ever comes up, we'll see. But yeah. Great matchup to end it all. It ended up being going to a relay, and as much as Iron Grip took a big lead, Neil Craver just does an absolute crazy gap closing on the dice. Like, I don't even know what he did, but somehow managed to basically like drag the entire obstacle with him.
He flew through that rolling dice, man.
So you weren't
Unbelievable.
supposed to. With the rules for the rumbling dice, is you couldn't slide them. You just had to. You had to roll them, and one of them you had to basically make 2 moves on one and 3 moves on another. But the first one, if you made 2 moves on it and you slid it, it would make it a whole lot easier to just like connect to that bar in the middle and move on to the second one. And Craver did a good job at getting it to just slide a little bit on the moves.
Interesting.
Because they were, from what I was seeing and what I was hearing, because our team never made it to the big course, is that they were very, very easy to just slide.
Yeah.
But they weren't the easiest to move as intended.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we've seen people mess up on the dismount because it was so slippery,
Yeah.
That said, I mean, he did a fantastic job gutting it out and trying to make up that gap. He came very close. So props to him, because there was quite a big gap, and he really closed it up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, sometimes when you're ahead, I feel like you can get comfortable and you're just like, oh, I'm way ahead. All I have to do is not make a mistake. And then there's this crazy person coming up behind you moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And it's like, oh, they're catching up with me.
Yeah. It's that track running element, You just get in your own pace, and then the person behind you is going all out, and you just don't see them until it's too late.
Yeah, you forget it's Ninja versus Ninja, not A&W for a second. Like, you can't just pick your way through at a leisurely pace. You got to move.
Exactly.
All right, so that is it for this episode of Ninja versus Ninja. Thank you so much, James, for joining us. Like I said, a long time coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a problem at all. If people want to reach out to you or follow you on social media, where can they find you?
For Instagram and Twitter, it's the same. It's at ninjames206.
Spell that out.
So NIN James. NINJAMES 206.
Nice.
Okay, and if you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach me as rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am at Ninja Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Yeah, hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is BIJAN 151. Special shout out to James. You're awesome, bro. Been a fan of yours since you were the beginning. Like, you're one of the OGs, You were running it way back in the early days of American Ninja Warrior, always giving it your all, and just beast moding that thing. I remember the first time you were doing that All-Star special. Man, you're just that's where you were just like putting people to shame. So special shout out to you, man. You've been killing it for a minute, and really looking forward to you this upcoming season.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
Peace, love, and deuces, y'all.